Today is Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, and this is Read Through the Bible.
And we're reading today in 2 Samuel. We're going to read chapters 5 and 6, and we're going to read of how David is finally made king over all of Israel. Kind of like the stage is set.
That's right.
Because we read yesterday about the death of Ishbosheth, because after Saul had been killed or committed suicide at the end of 1 Samuel, then we have Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, taking reign over the northern kingdom in Israel, but he's been killed. And what was your summary again for chapter 4?
I had Ish killed by Baanah and Rechab.
Okay, so Baanah and Rechab, these are the guys who killed Ishbosheth. But now that the king of Israel is out of the way, Israel's going to come and basically say, hey, we remember all your past exploits about how Saul killed his 1,000. You killed 10,000s of the Philistines, and you were always a mighty warrior, so you should become king for us. So, like, the death of Ishbosheth was very uniting in the people of Israel.
Yes, it was. Okay, here we go. Chapter 5, verse 1. Then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, Behold, we are your bone and flesh. Listen to how eager they are for him to rule over them. He says, in times past when Saul was king over us, it was you who led us out and brought in Israel.
Okay, and so that is an allusion to the song that I alluded to, of the women singing the song, David killed his 10,000s and Saul's thousands, and so you're the one really who conquered the Philistines for us.
They know. And the Lord said to you, you shall be shepherd of my people Israel, and you shall be prince over Israel. Like, somehow they even know that God wanted David to be king.
Yeah, and this has been a long time in coming, because David was anointed in 1 Samuel 16 as being king.
Right.
He kills Goliath in chapter 17, and he was, who knows, maybe a young teenager at that time?
Yeah.
15, 16, 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah,
and we're going to read here pretty soon. He was 30 years old when this was all happening, so it's been
right. And
12,
by the way,
years.
Saul had ruled for 40 years, so just kind of put that in context. Okay, so verse 3. So all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron. That's where David's capital city was. And King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. That means all Israel. Verse 4. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. So Saul reigned 40 years. David's going to reign 40 years. Verse 5, at Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and at Jerusalem he reigned over all Israel and Judah 33 years.
And the king and his men went to Jerusalem against the Jebusites, the inhabitants of a land, who said to David, You will not come in here, but the blind and the lame will ward you off. And they're talking smack, like, we don't even need strong warriors. Blind and lame people can keep David away, thinking David cannot come in here. Like, there's no way. We're so strong and we're so fortified. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion, that is the city of David. And David said on that day, Whoever would strike the Jebusites, let him get up the water shaft to attack, quote, the lame and the blind who are hated by David's soul. Like, the lame and the blind are on the inside, took up the water shaft. This was the weakness in the city of Jerusalem where the water went in.
Right. Yeah. I remember we got to see it when we went to Jerusalem, and we could look, and it was this big, long, like, shaft where that's where they would draw water, but you could get to it from
so think
outside
about like
city.
A slippery well sort of thing.
Like rock, wet rock shaft. Like, very hard to climb.
Yeah, and we read in 1 Chronicles 11 that it was Joab, actually, who went up the shaft, and he's the one that basically breached the Jebusites to allow them to attack, and he became then the one who was the chief ruler.
Yeah,
the chief military
commander,
leader.
The general.
And therefore it is said, The blind and lame shall not come into the house. And David lived in the stronghold and called it the city of David. And David built the city all around from the Millo inward. The Millo is like the outer protection of the city. And David became greater and greater and David became greater and greater because the Lord, the God of hosts, was with him.
Verse 11, and Hiram, king of Tyre, so that's another nation, sent messengers to David in cedar trees, also carpenters and masons who built David a house. I mean, that's unusual that another nation is not trying to attack them, but just trying to help them and bless them and prosper them. Verse 12, and David knew that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of his people Israel. I wish we could just stop it right there and just have it continue on in such a perfect state.
Yeah, forever and ever.
But it's not
ever.
perfect.
But that's the story of the Bible.
Right.
And David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem after he came from Hebron, and more sons and daughters were born to David, and these are the names of those who were born to him in Jerusalem: Shemua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Elida, and Eliphet.
Verse 17, when the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, all the Philistines went up to search for David. But David heard of it and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you give them into my hand? There's David asking of the Lord. He does this a lot. And the Lord said to David, go up, for I will certainly give the Philistines into your hand. And David came to Baal Perazim, and David defeated them there. And he said, the Lord has broken through my enemies before me like a breaking flood. Therefore the name of that place is called Baal Perazim. And the Philistines left their idols there, and David and his men carried them away.
And the Philistines came up yet again and spread out in the valley of Rephaim. And when David inquired of the Lord again, he said, you shall not go up, go around to the rear and come against them opposite the balsam trees. And when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, then rouse yourself, for them the Lord has gone out before you to strike down the army of the Philistines. And David did as the Lord commanded him, and struck down the Philistines from Geba to Gezer. So it's so interesting here that David becomes king, and they said, you're the one that gave us victory over the Philistines, and first thing he does is twice he defeats the Philistines.
Yeah, so they're just a constant menace.
Yep.
And David keeps them in check.
Yep. Okay, so we gave you enough there for a summary. You can think about that. Okay, chapter 6. It's interesting here. Often the writers of the Bible are always concerned about the kings and what are they doing about the worship and the
they're concerned
house
about
of
the
the
kings
Lord.
and the temple.
Yeah, and so here, right, one of the first things that David does is he says, okay, I got the new kingdom. Let's get this ark. Let's get everything in Jerusalem. That's the place that God has designed for his worship place, and we need to bring that here. So as the ESV heading says, the ark brought to Jerusalem, and this is a joyous occasion turned quickly bad.
Yeah. Okay, chapter 6. David again gathered all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people who were with him from Baal Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, who sits enthroned on the cherubim. Verse 3, and they carried the ark of God on a new cart.
Okay, ding, 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 right there.
That's a problem.
Is if you're kind of new to the Bible or whatever, haven't ever heard this before, like the Jews knew, because based upon Numbers chapter 4, that they're supposed to carry the ark.
Yeah, it had poles
that went out, yes.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be on the poles and then covered when they carried it.
Is not to be placed on a cart. That's bad number one. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead, verse 3 again.
So they carried the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were driving the new cart with the ark of God. And Ahio went before the ark.
And David and all the house of Israel were celebrating before the Lord with songs and lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals. This is a joyous time. Because
I feel
the
like
ark
we
of
need
God,
some sound effects here.
Yeah, the clink, 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 the castanets.
Strumming the lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals.
Aren't they like little
yeah,
finger
they're like
cymbals?
those little cymbals with your fingers.
Yeah, the belly dancers use, right? Okay. And when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him down there because of his error, and he died there beside the ark of God. His whole party stopped. And Uzzah, being a Levite, would have known better. You do not touch the ark. You don't even see it, right? They covered it, and then they had these long poles, and so you couldn't even see it, but you carried it with these poles. And as I like to say, it was R.C. Sproul who said that Uzzah thought his hand was purer than the dirt. And it was not.
I mean, I think it would also just be kind of like a reflex reaction. You see this thing falling and you just jump out and want to stop it.
Yep. But this is the holiness of God. That God
Right.
explicitly told them, do not touch it. Sort of like the fruit in the garden. Like, don't even look at it. You're going to die. I mean, this is the holiness of God. And David was angry because the Lord had broken out against Uzzah. And that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? So David was not willing to take the ark of the Lord into the city of David, but David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite, and the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. There's the blessing that came with the Ark of the Covenant.
You just see where this really affected David.
Yes, it
That
did.
he was angry. They had been celebrating, and he was so excited about the ark coming, and then he became afraid of it, and so he just stored it at Obed-Edom's house for a while
Just give it
until
some
he
time.
calmed,
Let it rest.
calmed down from
Okay,
it.
but it's all going to change.
Yes, verse 12. And it was told King David, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him because of the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. So kind of a take two.
Take two.
And it went much better that time. And when those who bore the ark of the Lord had gone 6 steps, he sacrificed an ox and a fattened animal. And David danced before the Lord with all his might. And David was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the horn.
As the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, his wife, looked out of the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. And they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And when David had finished offering the burnt offerings and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts and distributed among all the people, the whole multitude of Israel, both men and women, a cake of bread, a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins to each one. Then all the people departed, each to his house.
They each get their food bag,
A little bit like snacks after church.
A little bit,
like
yeah.
we have, yeah.
But they each get a cake of bread, a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins.
Nice,
yeah. Okay, verse 20. And David returned to bless his household. But Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how the king of Israel honored himself today, uncovering himself before the eyes of his servants, female servants, as one of the vulgar fellows shamelessly uncovers himself.
Okay, so maybe that's a little why Michal was so angry with him. It does mention in verse 14 he was wearing a linen ephod, so maybe his clothes were sweeping around and not so tight fit or something. I don't know what's happening, but it speaks about vulgar shamelessly uncovering himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Yeah,
exactly
don't.
what this was. But
We also know that Michal is probably just not happy about being with David because she was pulled away from her husband,
yeah, maybe.
Paltiel.
Yep. Verse 21.
So, verse 21, and David said to Michal, it was before the Lord who chose me above your father and above all his house to appoint me as a prince over Israel, the people of the Lord, and I will celebrate before the Lord. I will make myself yet more contemptible than this, and I will be abased in your eyes. But by the female servants of whom you have spoken, by them I shall be held in honor. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death.
Yep.
I think it's good that David and Michal did not have any children because that would mean that David's child would have been a grandson or granddaughter of Saul.
Yep, but she was cursed to be barren.
Yeah.
Okay, so chapter 6, this is the ark coming from Hebron to Jerusalem. You can put it like that. It's important to remember about Uzzah
Yeah.
touching the ark in light of the holiness of God, what this teaches. Michal disapproved of David dancing before the Lord, and Michal was barren, like those sorts of things. But the big thing is, the ark is coming in. It took 2 tries to get there, but it did. And so now the ark is in Jerusalem, and one of the most central chapters of the Bible comes tomorrow. And we will see you then. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.